Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining today's IC Real-Time webinar. In today's webinar, we will be discussing IC Real-Time's NEMA Icebox. IC Real-Time's NEMA Icebox is an all-in-one weatherproof solution for remote areas where you may not have power or you may not have data or internet. I have muted everyone's microphone at the moment, but I will take any questions anyone might have at the end of the webinar. My name is Michael Caballero. I'm one of the national sales executives here at IC Real-Time. And let's get started. So as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about IC Real-Time's NEMA Icebox solution. So IC Real-Time's NEMA Icebox solution, again, is an all-in-one weatherproof enclosure that's going to house your recorder, your hard drives, possibly a Cradlepoint router for data, or even a wireless router, which we'll talk about in a bit. Also a monitor, and allow you to utilize either the box to mount your cameras or allow you to run conduit to different locations where you might need any cameras and any coverage. So here, we're going to talk a little bit about different uses for the NEMA Icebox solution, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the feature sets that come with our NEMA Icebox solution. So the first one is going to be construction sites. Now, when it comes to dealers, I have a lot of dealers who do utilize these and rent these out on construction sites. They're great for coverage without having to hire a security guard. It's going to be much less expensive than paying a security guard every night to secure a construction site. And of course, some of the issues you can come across if you don't have a security guard or you don't have coverage from cameras on your construction site. And that's going to be costly bill delays with financial penalties. It's going to be downtime from your workforce, increased or cancellation of insurance premiums, and then chance of loss of investors, bonding, or borrowing power. One of the great things when it comes to using a NEMA Icebox and using IC Real-Time's cameras and recorders is going to be our suite of analytics. So things like our IMD, intelligent motion detection, or our perimeter protection. That's going to allow you to be notified when someone is on site, as our analytics can determine when a person or a vehicle is in range of our cameras or on scene of our cameras, and with that, notify you of that potential motion detection. What this is going to do for you is it's going to allow you to become responsive instead of reactionary when it comes to any possibility of theft on any kind of site. Now, off the grid solutions as well here. So where could you utilize this? Again, those construction sites where you may not have power, you may not have, or more importantly, you may not have data, concerts and festivals, HOA back gates. I have many dealers who use this for HOAs and for gate coverage, as you may have power, but you may not have data, light and utility poles, storage yards, wild woodland and farms, law enforcement, retail parking lots, and then parks, trails, and ball fields. Again, places where you may not have power, or you may have power, but you may not have data. And we're going to talk about some of those solutions in a bit, including Cradlepoint routers for cellular, as well as using Ubiquiti point-to-point wireless antennas, if you can utilize that as well. So these are 100% portable and easy to install. Like I mentioned, these are recorders, hard drives, and accessories housed in a weatherproof, lockable NEMA solution. And then you can simply mount dome cameras, bullet cameras right to the box directly, or you can use conduits. And again, these are sites where you may not have any solutions. And here at IC Real-Time, we have tons of solutions when it comes to overcoming any obstacles. We have mounting brackets for all of these NEMA Icebox solutions. So you can pole mount them, you can mount them to a wall. I've even had them mounted to a tree with a camera directly on the box. So tons of solutions here we do have for you. And then it's anywhere, security anywhere you need it. So once you have these deployed in the field and you have your internet connectivity, whether it's through Ubiquiti or whether it's through a Cradle Point router with Verizon, you're going to have that ability to then check on those cameras using our mobile applications, using our PC and Mac applications like you see on screen here, and then have that ability to get notifications pushed out to you. Again, if you're using any of our advanced analytics, including our IMD, as well as our perimeter protection. If you've been on my new technology webinar, you know that IMD, or intelligent motion detection, that's going to encompass the entire scene. So it's going to ignore false positives up to 90%, and human beings or vehicles that pull up on scene in front of those cameras, you're going to get notified through the mobile application ICRSS Pro. Now with perimeter protection, that's where you're going to draw your tripwires, your intrusion zones, because you may not want to capture things like vehicle traffic or foot traffic on a street. You only want to capture the movement in a specific location that you have drawn on screen. So these are custom built from the ground up, right? So you have a NEMA Type 3R or 3RX IP24 rated, aluminum mounting plate with surge protected 120 volt AC outlets, and a solid state controlled heating system, fully gasketed, vented lid with stainless steel quick release latches with padlock hasps, and then your molded fiberglass reinforced polyester for the enclosure. Now, something that you see here on screen is we have our NEMA solution, and you'll see a couple of different NEMA solutions in this webinar with cameras mounted directly to the box, which makes things really simple. But here we're not utilizing that solution. Here we're using conduit, so you have your full conduit ports available to you, and you can run that conduit to a location where you do need that PTZ, as you see on screen here. So that NEMA icebox is running to our corner mount, connected to a junction box, and then using the mounted PTZ. Now, what you don't see in this picture is on the other side where that PTZ is, on the other side of the wall, that is beaming across the Boston Harbor to a head-end location that has another IHC Brotham or Ubiquiti nano beam receiving that data. These are good for up to 10 miles of coverage. This is just going over the Boston Harbor. And at that head-end location is where you're going to have your internet connection. So what the Ubiquiti is doing is acting as a wireless bridge to bridge this installation to that head-end location. So in that box, you have your switches connected and your PoE injectors connected to that PTZ, and that is all then being wired through Cat6 to that Ubiquiti antenna. That antenna is then beaming or bridging the gap wirelessly to the head-end location and the head-end network. So when you are utilizing something like the Ubiquiti solution here, it is as if you are on the local area network when it comes to the data transmission. That switch and that device is gonna get the same IP scheme as what's in the head-end network and location where the recorder is. So that's a great solution, and that's something that you're gonna have that head-end location. And do keep in mind, this is line of sight as well. So you're going to have a direct line of sight to that other antenna. And again, this is up to 10 miles. Now here you do get that 120 volt duplex. So that's where you're going to plug in your heaters and your coolers. You're going to plug in your recorder as well. Now do keep in mind, once you get power to this box and then you are able to utilize that 120 volt AC outlet, I really highly suggest you get a recorder that does have an integrated PoE switch. The reason for that is then the recorder plugged into that AC outlet is going to power all of those cameras. Right, so if you have multiple cameras that need to be powered, you don't need to worry about having a switch in there. You already have the integrated PoE switch from the recorder. And then as you can see behind the black panel, you do have your board and your hard drives as well. So this is a fully functional solution. You can get also a 7-inch monitor in there as well. However, I do suggest that if you are mounting this high up on a pole, that you do forego that 7-inch monitor. That monitor would allow you to interface with the recorder directly. But if you have it mounted high on a pole, you're really never going to use that 7-inch monitor, as you're going to need a bucket truck or an extremely tall ladder to access that if you want to review playback. What I would suggest is you can integrate a wireless router into there. And with that wireless router, that's going to give you then wireless connectivity. So all you have to do is walk up to the pole, open up your laptop, connect to that wireless router's network, and then use Smart ICRSS to live view and play back video that you need to recover from the NEMA Icebox. So a couple of different solutions that we have here. First, we are a platinum partner with Verizon. So you're going to get a pre-programmed Cradlepoint router. Now, with that platinum partnership, you get a few things that come to your advantage here. You're going to get a simple 1-month deposit instead of a 2-month deposit. You're going to get also a static IP address, which is useful for remote access. So you can do any port forwarding, or you can still utilize P2P. When it comes to using a Cradlepoint router, the only thing you want to pay attention to is how much time you're spending viewing these cameras through that cellular connection. The reason for that is that cellular connection does have a data cap. And with that data cap, you're going to have a bit of limitations when it comes to how much data you're going to be using. We have a few different plans available, but with that, again, you want to be conscious of that data cap. And you really want to just, if I were most dealers or installers setting this up, I would set up all of the notifications from IMD, notifications from perimeter protection. That way, when you receive those notifications, then you can check on your cameras. And you always want to make sure that you close out any of your software when you're after you're done viewing these cameras. So if you're using Smart ICRSS or ICRSS Pro, you want to make sure that you completely close those out and log out. And make sure they're not running in the background if you're done viewing these cameras through a cellular connection. Now, when it comes to ubiquity, generally you're not going to run into those data caps. It's going to use the internet connection at the location of your choosing. So as you can see here on screen, we have our 2 antennas. To the right here, we have a nanobeam wireless antenna, and then on the left here, we have our ubiquity rocket receiver along with an omnidirectional antenna here. Usually you would use an omnidirectional antenna if you have multiple locations beaming back to this head end. If that's not the case, you can use just 2 nanobeams or 2 nanostation M5s from Ubiquiti, and then you can have that one-to-one connection. With that, on your head end, you'll have your recorder, you'll have your local area network, you may have some cameras that are running on the head end at the head end location as well, along with a switch there. And then on your remote location, you're going to have your switch that's going to power your cameras. You're going to need to get power to this switch. You're then also going to have off this switch your 24-volt PoE injector that is going to then power that antenna. Again, you need to have line of sight between the two, and you can have your wireless bridge local area network. Now, we do have solar solutions as well. We do have a partnership with a company called VORP Energy. VORP Energy provides turnkey wireless solutions, and they run the gamut from what capabilities you can have. You can have trailered solar solutions along with poles and extending poles as well, up until what you see on the right here is just a pole you can get from almost any pole manufacturer. You will get your all of your batteries, your inverters in a separate NEMA box along with your solar panel, and have all of the mounting gear available to mount this to a pole and then run that power to the actual NEMA icebox that does house the cameras as well as the recorder with it. Again, this is a turnkey solution. It's something that you're going to have to reach out to your sales executive to have a discussion about, but you get the whole package all together. Only the higher end solutions come with the actual pole, so any of the lower end solutions do not come with that pole accessory. A couple of things we're going to need, or the sales executive is going to need from you, is how many cameras you're going to use, what cameras you're going to use, what recorder you're going to use, because what we need to do is calculate the wattage draw from the complete solution, as well as where are you mounting this, where in the country are you, because there are different requirements for different states because a lot of different states in our country get more sun than others. So all of those are going to be calculated by Forp Energy, and they're going to provide for you the best solution that's going to fit your needs. Now, as this is a fully NEMA rated solution, it's going to be waterproof, it's going to be dust proof, it's going to be snow proof. So you have your heated and cooled box as well for your cameras. Especially when they're mounted outside. Do keep in mind that majority of our cameras, with some slight variations, operate at up to 120 degrees Fahrenheit and as low as 33 degrees Fahrenheit as well. We have two size solutions here. We have a small NEMA icebox and a large NEMA icebox. Oftentimes you can use the small NEMA icebox, especially if you're using ubiquity antennas, as you can mount your switch in there, you can mount all your cabling in there, and have that then running out to your cameras as well as your ubiquity solution. And then if you're going to use something like a recorder solution, like we've seen in all these examples, you're going to go with that large NEMA icebox as well. Now, basically, the majority of our cameras can be used with a NEMA icebox. As you've seen in some of these videos, you can mount them to junction boxes housing those cameras. You can mount the cameras directly to the box as well. There's really not a camera here that can't be utilized running off that NEMA icebox, or at least running conduit to a junction box that is going to allow you to mount that camera to. Now, when it comes to recorders, that's a bit of a different story. You're not going to be able to use recorders like a 6016, 6064, 6032. They're just too large of recorders at a 2U chassis, rack mountable, to fit in those larger NEMA iceboxes. What you're going to want to look at here is your 8-channel and your 16-channel solutions here. So our MX and really our MX recorders. You really don't even want to use the FX recorders. Of course, FX recorders, the chassis is much larger than the MX recorder, or not much larger, but larger to the point where it becomes rack mountable. So the MX recorder, being that smaller chassis size, or even the NVR208NS, can also be utilized in here. Those are the cameras you're really the recorders you're really going to want to look at, is those MX recorders as well as those FX recorders. Now, we do have some recorders on our HD AVS line, but do keep in mind when it comes to HD AVS and it comes to NEMA icebox solutions, you're going to have to run separate power to those HD AVS cameras as well. And really, HD AVS is for retrofit installs, so you don't really need you can really forego high definition over coax and just use IP solutions. And then you've got full night coverage as well. So here's a fully built out Forp Energy solution with our cameras, with your extendable pole, your solar solutions. In that trailer has all of your batteries, your inverters. And then as you can see here, up top, you have all of your IC real-time cameras. You have a couple of PTZs up there. You have a 360 camera as well, fisheye camera. You can also use our M80V, our 4-lens varifocal single housing camera as well. It only uses one cable run back to a switch, so it is a great solution there. And then you have tons of options when it comes to nighttime coverage. With this much ambient light, you can utilize any of our Starlight cameras. You can also, if you have no light, you can use any of our soft white light cameras to illuminate that scene as well and keep things in color at nighttime. Or you can simply use the built-in IRs on any of our cameras if you need no light coverage as well. And then lastly, you have options for concealment as well. As you can see here, this is what I mentioned when I said you can mount these to a tree as well. This is a construction location that they were monitoring for time lapse as well as security coverage, and they needed to mount this to a tree. So all they did was they hydro dipped the box and they hydro dipped the actual camera as well in camouflage. You do want to make sure that you do tape up the serial, the label with the serial number on cameras to keep them in our the warranty. If you paint over or you cover the labels that covers up the serial number for any of our cameras, that's going to void the warranty. But you can paint or hydro dip cameras as long as you do cover up that label and you're able to remove that once the painting and the hydro dipping is complete. So one thing this is a visible deterrent as well. When you have these deployed, it's really showing somebody that security is most important to you. So at construction sites, at events, a lot of people, when they see these, are going to behave a lot better, knowing that there's eyes on, even in these remote locations. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take any questions anyone might have. I do ask that if you have any questions, you go to the Q&A tab at the top of your Zoom meeting. You can drop any of your questions in there, and I'll be more than happy to answer this question. Yep, no problem. Omar, pricing here is going to be, I can't give you the exact pricing because these are custom built solutions. So you're going to have to pick out your box, you're going to have to pick out your recorder, you're going to have to pick out your cameras. So what I would suggest is, if this is something that you're interested in, reach out to your national sales executive here at IC Real Time to get a quote, and we'll be able to quote you out on your full NEMA box solution with all the requirements. Mike Hogan, do you guys sell the solar option or is that from a third-party vendor? Great question, Mike. So we have a partnership with a company called Warp Energy. However, if you have a solution on your own for any solar panels, then great, you can utilize that as well. Again, or you can work with your national sales executive. They will go ahead and get all the details on the build for the NEMA solution and get that over to Warp Energy. And Warp Energy will be able to get you the correct turnkey package for your needs. No problem, Mike. Thanks, Rusty. I appreciate it. All right. Well, it looks like no one else has any questions at this time. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us on today's IC Real Time webinar. My name is Mike Caballero. I'm one of the national sales executives here at IC Real Time. Have a fantastic day. Stay safe.